afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for this very important commemoration. Today we'll be unveiling the signs that recognize this intersection as Republic of Artsakh Square. And this is a really important moment for the over 100,000 people of Artsakh who today, as we speak here, are enduring an illegal blockade at the hands of the bloody dictator of Azerbaijan, Aliyev, who is represented by the people who work in the consulate behind me in this building. And as they go through the struggles that they're going through right now, facing starvation, deprivation of medical care, the inability to have access to the rest of the world with this medieval blockade that Azerbaijan has imposed upon them, they still see what we do here. They still hear what we say here. And if we can provide a little bit of comfort and support to the suffering people of Artsakh, to let them know that they're not forgotten, at least here in Los Angeles, we remember them, we are going to fight for them, and we are going to stand up to make sure that they get the protection and the aid that they need and deserve. And a lot of people in Los Angeles here, ask me, well, that's very far from here. Why should I care about what happens in the other part of the world? And I'm going to say this as briefly as I can. We have some support from one of the truck drivers here. The reason that we should care about this is because America stands for sovereignty and democracy and self-determination. It's the basic core value upon which our nation was founded. When the founders of the United States of America stood up against a far more powerful enemy, one of the global powers of the world, and said, we insist on our own sovereignty and our own self-determination. And it led to the Declaration of Independence and the creation of the United States of America. That heroic action sent a message across the world about our support for democratic values. Well, if you fast forward to today, that's exactly what the heroic people of Artsakh have done as well. In the closing days of the Soviet Union, the Republic of Artsakh stood up and said, we demand our own ability to set our own agenda, to stand up for our own human rights, to elect our own leaders, and that means we leave the Soviet Union. And they left. They declared their independence from the Soviet Union. Azerbaijan objected to that and launched a war of oppression against the people of Artsakh, just as we had to endure the Revolutionary War to protect our own rights against the British. And you know what? The people of Artsakh won. They won their own independence, and in so doing, they sent a message across the world that, even against the strongest of enemies, the values of democracy can prevail. And since then, since the 1990s, the Republic of Artsakh has demonstrated its commitment to democracy. And throughout its entire history as a republic, it's been under threat by the dictator of Azerbaijan. It's had its people shot down as they're plowing their fields by Azeri snipers firing across the border. It's had landmines circling its boundaries set by Aliyev and his cronies to try to, intimidate and kill the people of Artsakh. And yet throughout all that time, the people of Artsakh have stood strong. And in the recent war launched by Aliyev against these people, there were horrible losses. There were horrible abuses of human rights. Prisoners were taken and are still held, civilian prisoners still held by the dictator of Baku as hostages, not as prisoners of war, as hostages. So it's no wonder that the prosecutor, the former prosecutor for the International Criminal Court, has issued the report that he issued, Mr. Ocampo has issued, declaring that genocide is occurring right now in Artsakh. And if the world doesn't wake up, and if the world doesn't stand up to put this to a stop, it won't be just a blockade. It will be the complete obliteration of the Armenian people and our thousands of years of history and cultural development in that part of the world will be destroyed by the bloody dictator of Azerbaijan. And people don't see that yet. They see a blockade. But I'm here to say it is genocide occurring right now. When our people were marched out into the deserts of Deir Zor, maybe people didn't see that as a genocide because they hadn't died yet. They hadn't been butchered yet. But as sure as we are standing here, that was the beginning of the Armenian genocide in 1915. And as sure as we're standing here, I can tell you that this blockade is the beginning of the genocide being committed by the Azerbaijanis against the people of Artsakh right now. So, it's important that we do this, and I'm so grateful to my colleagues in the City Council, and particularly Councilmember Traci Park, who ran with this initiative, introduced a motion in Council to ensure that we could name this intersection Republic of Artsakh Square, so that as this is happening in Artsakh, they can turn on their televisions or look at their social media feeds and see that somebody cares. Across the world, somebody cares about their destiny and will stand up for them, and that's what we're doing here today. So I'm very grateful to all of the members of the council, but it's my great honor and privilege to be able to recognize Councilmember Traci Park, in whose district we are standing, who stood with us in helping to introduce this motion, to get these signs ordered, and to make this declaration of this intersection official. Councilmember Traci Park.
Thank you. Thank you. I want to thank everyone for being here this afternoon, and welcome to Council District 11. And I also want to thank you, Council President, for your leadership and your wisdom, and thank you also for being out here with us this afternoon. We are here today outside the Azerbaijani consulate to stand in support of the Republic of Artsakh. The aggression by the Azerbaijani government has and continues to put the lives of the 120,000 Armenians that live in Artsakh in a state of crisis. Their blockade has prevented vital food and medicine and fuel from reaching Artsakh. It is reprehensible that the Azerbaijani government would intentionally subject those living in Artsakh to living in an open-air prison. I unwaveringly stand with the Armenian people and the diaspora communities across the world as we urge stronger action from our federal government to stand against the aggression and to call on the Azerbaijani government to end the atrocities affecting innocent people. We must all come together as Angelenos and as Americans to condemn this aggression and these human rights violations that are being perpetrated by the Azerbaijani government. Thank you again for being here, and it is an honor to unveil this new square today. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Member. Obviously, the steps that we're taking here today are important as a symbol of our solidarity with the people of Azerbaijan. And I hope, our solidarity with the people of Artsakh. Thank you, Robert. The fact that they hear what we're saying is important. But much more important is the action that I hope that the people of Artsakh will see from the United States government. And so while we're declaring this intersection today to be Republic of Artsakh Square, and while we're unveiling these signs, we're also calling upon the United States government to immediately demand and ensure the reopening of the Lachen corridor to once and for all break this illegal blockade, which is killing people right now. We call upon the U.S. government to immediately discontinue all military assistance to the Republic of Azerbaijan whatsoever. We call upon the U.S. government to sanction members of the Aliyev regime under the Global Magnitsky Human Rights Accountability Act and hold those thugs accountable for the human rights violations that they're committing right now. We call upon the U.S. government to provide immediate humanitarian assistance to the people of Artsakh. And we ask the United Nations Security Council, of which our government is a permanent member, to establish a United States mission to Artsakh to ensure that the people of Artsakh are kept safe and have the aid and the humanitarian assistance that they need. So with that, I am very pleased to be able to recognize here the permanent representative of the Republic of Artsakh, our ambassador of the Republic of Artsakh to the United States, Robert Avedisian. Robert?
Thank you. Thank you very much. My pleasure. Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. It is my honor and pleasure to welcome and see you all here on the Republic of Artsakh Square. I think this is the first Republic of Artsakh Square in the United States, and I'm sure this will become another vein or another bond between our nations and our peoples, and it will become another bond between tens of thousands of our compatriots living in the great city of Los Angeles and the greater LA area with their brothers and sisters in Artsakh. We've already mentioned, and you've heard a lot about the inhuman sufferings our population and our people is undergoing in Artsakh. It's been close to 9 months of this medieval cruel blockade against our people. It's been almost 9 months of Azerbaijan's open disregard of the position of the international community, of the calls from the United States government, of the verdict by the International Court of Justice, and calls by every pretty much democratic government around the world to lift the blockade and ease the sufferings, the artificial sufferings of the Artsakh people. We see that ignorance, we see that the tyranny continues to ignore those calls. But at the same time, Artsakhs always remain hopeful that collectively together we will be able to raise this demand and raise this political voice to the level of commitment which would be sufficient to press the dictatorship into abandoning its entire Armenian genocidal policy once and forever, and to save Artsakh, of course. It's been pretty tough period for our country. This is probably the toughest period in the history of the Artsakh as an Armenian home. The scale, the scope, the arsenal of the weaponry used by the tyranny against Artsakhs pretty much demonstrates that this is not just an issue of 120,000 people. This is a civilizational issue. This is the fight of our freedom versus oppression. This is the fight of our people and those who stand next to us against the genocide. And we fight against the repetition of the Armenian genocide. We very much value the contribution of our Armenian and non-Armenian friends. Of course, we are very extremely grateful to Council President Krekorian, Councilmember Park, all their colleagues in the City Council, which we had pleasure and honor to meet several times and discuss these ongoing crimes against the Armenian population. We're grateful to the U.S. government, to everyone who is speaking out against the situation which is happening now as we speak. At the same time, we are expecting a stronger commitment from everybody, from all the involved stakeholders, and we hope that together, by our collective efforts, we will be able to break this isolation of Artsakh, because this is not just an issue of what is happening today. This is a pattern. This is the attempt to take dark medieval practices into the 21st century and try to promote your political agenda using absolutely law of the jungle and using this geopolitical situational opportunities. This square, it is a symbol that the Los Angeles remains among the greatest cities in the world which continue to support freedom, democracy, human rights, continues to value the human life, not only here domestically, but also internationally. It is undoubtedly will send a very strong signal to all Armenians in Artsakh, to entire our people who live in Artsakh, in Armenia, and around the world, that we have friends, that this fight has not been lost, that we still have a lot of power, and that will eventually, our collective force will prevail over the evil of aggression, fascism, and intolerance in any form and manifestation. And of course, this signal is crucial at this stage as our people to continue to undergo 9 months of inhuman sufferings, of a daily fight for daily bread, of people not having access to simple medical services, to simple educational opportunities, for simple values which are so common and should be so accessible to every person on this planet. Artsakhis will get the signal which hopefully will reinforce our collective commitment, and first and foremost of commitment of the people in Artsakh to continue that fight, to continue the fight against the genocide, to continue the resistance, and to continue whatever we can to put an end to these constant attacks on the Armenian presence in the region, be it in Artsakh, be it in the Republic of Armenia, or as we pretty much often see also they attack us wherever we are around the world. No, they cannot force us to retreat. They cannot force us to capitulate. We will not give up until we breathe, until we have the opportunity to fight, we will fight. And thank you for all those who stand next to us in this fight. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Avedisian, and thank you for your kind words about how we stand up here for people all around the world. And that's why this fight matters as well. Because if the actions of the bloody, fascist, tyrannical dictator of Azerbaijan are allowed to stand by the world community, it sends a clear signal to every other, tyrant around the world that the world will turn a blind eye to their violations of human rights, their violations of international law, as long as there's oil involved or some other reason to turn a blind eye to that. If Aliyev can get away with this, then dictators around the world will try to get away with using violence and racism and violations of human rights to achieve their political ends as well. And we cannot allow that as a civilized nation. So next, I would like to recognize and thank both of them for being here. We're joined also by our former assembly member, Adrin Nazarian, who is a son of Artsakh, in fact, and has been one of the clarion voices throughout the time of both peace and war, standing up for the people of Artsakh. Adrin Nazarian.
Thank you, Council President. First and foremost, I want to express my gratitude to the leadership of the Councilwoman for the region, Traci Park, who took the helm, wanted to fight for what's right. This is not just an Armenian issue, this is a human issue. And so thank you for standing strong. Thank you for standing for a small region that's just a speck in the history dustbin of the world, but is important to many people right here in California. And it's important also for the sake of humanity. Thank you for standing strong. Council President, thank you for standing strong on this issue always. And Mayor Bass, thank you for also lending your voice of support to this issue. Folks, 10 years ago when I took office in the state legislature and in my first term of office, pushed for the California state's recognition of the Republic of Nagorno-Karabakh and succeeded, little did I believe that I would 9 years later be standing on the precipice of potentially another genocide occurring right before our eyes in the 21st century. So this is shame on us if we're going to allow this to happen under our watch. And to President Biden, Secretary Blinken, Director Powers, it's a shame that we are not being stronger in our position in making sure those that are perpetrating this, make no mistake, to all our non-Armenian friends or individuals who may not know about the geography or the history of this region, this is the modern day genocide. This is what modern day genocide looks like. It's not about bombs or guns or machine weaponry. It's about cutting off food supplies to a country that you know is landlocked, destroying their infrastructure of utilities like internet, making sure they don't get water so that they start dying off slowly through malnutrition. This is what a modern day genocide looks like. So I do hope that our administration starts speeding up their political movement and their diplomatic movement in order to make sure that this does not lead to where we're all afraid of it leading. And on a second note, I would like to say a couple of words in Armenian for our Armenian viewing audience. Սիրելի հայրենակիցներ, մենք այսօր ներկա ենք գտնվում Ադրբեջանի հյուպատոսարանի առաջ Los Angeles քաղաքում, Council Member Paul Traci Park եւ Council President Paul Krekorian առաջնորդել են կոչել այս շրջանի խաչմերուկը ինչպես Արցախի հրապարակ։ Այսօր կարևոր օր է հայկական համայնքի համար գիտնալ, որ Los Angeles-ը, ղեկավարությունը Los Angeles-ի մեջ հարգում է եւ կանգնում է հայ համայնքի հետ եւ քաջալերում է եւ պահանջում է, ոչ թե միայն քաջալերում, բայց պահանջում է, որ մեր երկրի նախագահը President Biden-ը իրեն ձայնը բարձրացնի եւ լսեցնել տա, որ Արցախին ապահով պահենք։ Շնորհակալ եմ անչափ բոլորին։
Thank you very much. And then before we do the unveiling, I also want to thank for joining us, representing the great city of Glendale, member of the city council, the city of Glendale that also has Artsakh Street, by the way. So I'd like to recognize Council Member Elena Satrian from the Glendale City Council.
Thank you, Council Member Traci Park and LA Council President, everybody on the LA City Council for spearheading this. I will note that while this is very symbolic for the people of Artsakh to see, I also see this as an opportunity for education for people that live here. I will tell you, for at least the last couple of decades, we know that the Consulate of Azerbaijan goes around attempting to buy our elected officials, by our nonprofit organizations, and spread misinformation about the history of the people, and especially now with what's happening. And so this is an opportunity for people, as they're passing by, if they're invited to their office, to also have an opportunity to look up for themselves what it means. And the fact that the city of Los Angeles is standing with Artsakh and not with the Consulate of Azerbaijan and their genocidal regime. I will say that last year, at the end of the year, I visited Armenia in hopes of visiting Artsakh. City of Glendale has Martuni as one of its sister cities. I was unable to go because the blockade had just started weeks before I arrived. But we've been thinking about how we take it to the next level. And if we look at the history of the United States and what it did for the Armenian people back during the Armenian genocide, it was one of the proudest moments in American history where every single state, every single city, every single church, and every nonprofit joined to help save the Armenian nation during the time of genocide, saving over 2 million refugees, over 132,000 orphans. And here we are 108 years later when our tax dollars are actually going to help facilitate this genocide. And so I'm very proud to say that my colleagues and I have decided that we are opening up an Artsakh fund, and we will be sending humanitarian aid to the border from the city of Glendale. We're looking to launch that in the next couple of days. And I think it's what each and every city does on its own and every community does on its own. I will also note that this is not just a human rights issue. It's for every organization and person that cares about the environment, that cares about women, that cares about education, that cares about youth. Just a couple of days ago, we had three Artsakh students who were kidnapped on their way to school. And so we don't know where their whereabouts are. Azerbaijan has confirmed that they are holding them and will deport them at some point. We don't know what their state is. The last we've heard is that they were beaten during their kidnapping. And so I think it's going to take all of us. And so thank you for your leadership on this. And I'm proud to join you.
Thank you.